A small New Zealand coastal town's population has disappeared. They've been replaced by aliens who are planning to harvest their meat for their intergalactic chain of fast food restaurants. The only thing standing in their way is the Astro Investigation and Defense Service, or AIDS, who dispatched their agents to the town of Kaihoro, pitting them against legions of aliens in Peter Jackson's 1987 film Bad Taste. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Josh Allred.
And I'm Caleb Leger.
And this is Filmgazm. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the 143rd episode of the Filmgazm podcast. I'm joined today for the first time by both Josh Allred and Caleb Leger, who are going to help me dissect this weird as fuck film. Glad to have you guys on board together for the first time. This is awesome.
Yeah, I thought this wasn't going to happen until I moved out to Virginia, but you know, it's nice to at least get one done this way. But it'll be great when me and Josh can do it together in the same room as well.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a lot more fun when he and I are in the room and I can torture him on a personal level. Because you guys have only been getting a taste of it over the years. Caleb's gotten a little bit more of an intimate experience, I guess you could say, you know, being trapped with me on a ship for 6 months and just programming whatever, you know, whenever I could. It's a lot of fun. It's an interesting way to get to know somebody. And you start peeking into the mind of a person who watches movies like this and really enjoys them. So,
well, speaking of being tortured on an intimate level, if you've been following the news, the Pacific Northwest is in the midst of a vicious heat wave. I came up to Bremerton, Washington to visit my buddy and have been trapped in hell for about 4 days. If you listen to our past sneak preview, you'll have heard me rant about this already, but figured Filmgazm fans would want to know why I'm not exactly up to par lately.
Well, we ranted about it. We had to stop recording because my cat started panting. I had to go take care of that. It's fun. I was actually just checking on him to make sure he's good. He's fine right now. But yeah, it's brutal right now.
Vacation. So before we get going, I've got one update on the Rewind. Today's Rewind updates our Pet Sematary episode, which was super early in the show. I think in the first 10, I spent like 25 minutes talking about the original and the remake alone, because at the time I didn't know what the fuck this was. The upcoming and wildly unnecessary prequel to Stephen King's story, which is coming to Paramount Plus likely next year, has cast Jackson White as a young Judd Crandall, the older neighbor played by Fred Gwynne and John Lithgow in the two films we've gotten so far. They're really betting heavy on this Pet Sematary prequel nobody has asked for. They're casting it out. I know we've talked a bit about this, but I don't think altogether. So what are you guys' thoughts on this Pet Sematary prequel?
I mean, I've already said it before. It's totally unnecessary. No. And at least they're trying to keep it with familiar characters and maybe try and, I don't know, like, this is just so frustrating. I mean, if anything, take the concept, take the idea and do something new with it. Maybe, I don't know what new would be for that, but set it in a more modern setting with other people and challenge the mythology of it that way, or use it in a way that you're kind of trying to explore some socially relevant ideas. I don't know, like, it's just boring. It's lazy, and it's just, I think it's just a waste of time and money.
Well, what about, here's an idea. I mean, you kind of build off of the 1989 one. You have this area be like, you know, bulldozed and become like a city, but the Pet Sematary is still there. It's in, you know, like the backwoods that wasn't like gone down. It's like in the middle of the city now, and you kind of use it as like a metaphor for gentrification or something. I don't know, just spitballing here. I don't know.
I mean, it's better than going prequel. I'm sure you guys would agree with me. Anytime a series of any kind, any genre goes prequel, that tells me you're running out of ideals for what to do a lot of the time. So you're kind of like, oh, let's just go back. The fact that they're doing this with like a third or fourth, because of Pet Sematary 2. So with the fourth film in this, it's like, and some that's aren't even really like that connected. Like you had the original film, you had Pet Sematary 2, you had the remake, and now we're getting a prequel. Like
that's the thing. This is never a story that needed to be franchised.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm not down with it. I have a soft spot for the original movie. The remake's all right. There's things I like, things I don't like about it. I'm not really into this idea of going back and doing a prequel. I don't want it.
Nah.
So I think you're hitting on something, Connor, and that's kind of where I was going. Is you use the concept of the Pet Cemetery and you just use that as a frame and go from there and find a way to use it like any good person that makes a horror movie. Like like Stephen King, he uses the fantastic elements of things to really enhance a very deep and human story. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why Pet Sematary is probably one of my favorite books. It scared the shit out of me as a kid. And then when I reread it as a parent, it scared me even more because I totally like, I am Lewis. Like I'm a father and I bought into the whole idea of like being so swallowed in your grief, because I have been in that position before when my mother died, and just wanting so bad to have that person back, no matter the cost, no matter what it is, even though what comes back isn't who you put in. And that whole idea of dealing with grief and loss and forcing yourself to accept the reality that you have lost a person that you love so much. And it's those big ideas that made that book so good. And I think if you continued on those themes and used it in a way to try and say something about what's going on now and or in a way that maybe like it's a dirty secret, like just stop trying to be so lazy and just take the easy way out, because you're not going to get anything out of it. And that shows more than anything that's what studios are going to do. That's what these streaming services are going to do. They're going to latch onto the easy, low-hanging fruit, and they're going to push it out real quick instead of trying to actually develop talent and storytellers and voices and filmmakers and actors and all that shit. Do that. Fucking do that, please.
Yeah, I agree. And as a King fan, there's so many stories that have to be touched that we don't need a fourth version of Pet Sematary. Like just, adapt some of his other stories if you want to make some Stephen King money, something new.
There's plenty of stories. And like you said, they could essentially kind of like, to me, like Candyman route it, or it's the new movie seems to be tackling like gentrification and all this stuff and moving forward with the storyline to give me something I'm actually really interested in seeing. Not let me tell you how this all came to be.
The book kind of already does that. Like we know how this came to be. There is no story to tell here that isn't just retreading, ground that's already been stood upon.
I mean, unless the story's centered on somebody who is like a freaking distant relative of the Micmac people, I think that's the only way you could have that be some kind of story. But even then, like, it's not worth a series, and I don't even think it's worth a movie. Like, just don't.
Exactly. Wow. I like these brief little updates, little nuggets of info we get on past episodes. Always interesting. Most of the time it's casting news on a remake, but we try.
Shocker.
Bad taste. So this was a pick from you, Josh. Something I had never experienced before, and like I gotta say, this was a unique viewing experience.
I mean, it's one of those movies you're not going to forget once you've seen it. And yes. I think if you go into it knowing what came out of it and what it helped to start, I think there should be a lot of reverence put towards it, not throwing it on a pedestal and worshiping it or by any means, because it is definitely the product of somebody who was not refined in the art of filmmaking by any stretch of the imagination. However, I will say that this was somebody who was very competent in some of the tricks and tools, maybe not a master at the time, but I think using the tricks of filmmaking, whether it was miniatures or stop motion animation or, you know, puppeteering, a lot of those things, he used all of those to maximum effect, and by hook or by crook made this movie that for me is a very it's very emblematic of the drive and desire that goes into making a movie, and it also is very very prevalent, and it's a story that a lot of first-time filmmakers have, not having any money, you know, tricking your friends into doing this over years and years on weekends for the very selfish reason of wanting to make this movie, wanting to get this thing made, and knowing that you can't do it by yourself. And I think what we get is pretty damn funny. And also it's just fun. Like you can't not help but laugh at this movie. And maybe, yeah, you are at times laughing at, you know, the whole thing. Like, how is this movie even alive? Like, how does this thing exist? But it does. And it's amazing. I mean, the fact that this film is over 30 years old and was responsible for bringing the world Peter Jackson, Wingnut, and Weta, and all of these things. Like, if you don't have bad taste, you don't have the Lord of the Rings. You just don't. New Zealand does not have the film industry that it does. And you have to have that in your mind when you watch this thing, because a lot of what Peter Jackson is known for, with his use of camera work and his imagination and his vision and his knowledge of the tools of filmmaking, it's all there. It's all there. So you have to, I mean, at least for me, and this is where I'm proud of my film studies background and being able to articulate these kind of thoughts instead of saying like, yeah, this is a bitchin' ass alien movie that is over the top, gory, and hilarious, and absolutely has a place in. I do think I gave it a 10 when I wrote it out. When I wrote my review, I think I gave it a 10, just because it has no right to be as much fun as it is when you think about what went into doing it. But it does, and it's here, and I think because of its significance and what it continued to do, not to mention what Peter Jackson built off of those two movies. Like, his whole naughty movies are some of the most outrageous but creative and unique movies that you wouldn't have gotten from anybody but him.
That's very true. He has a style, a very signature style. You can kind of see that this filmmaker, as ridiculous as I found the movie, I can appreciate the style of it. And he is, you can tell even then, this guy's going to go places. This guy's going to be somebody. And that's neat to kind of see the foundation of Peter Jackson's career, a very distinguished multi-Oscar winning career. And it all came from this ridiculous concept of aliens taking over a small town for a fast food joint. Like, the fuck. And it's, yeah, I spent most of the time trying to figure this out, and I just realized, like, that's not going to happen. There's no way to figure this out.
I spent most of the time thinking, oh, I can't wait for Connor to witness this scene, because I remember watching the first time with Josh, because my experience was on, I think it was deployment, I believe. Josh, just like he's doing with you right now, was showing me movies, and oddly enough, we're in the same order he's going in right now. It was Toxic Avenger and then Bad Taste. So I went from that to Bad Taste, and I liked it. I really ended up liking the movie. It is cool seeing, like, so I like, in my case, and I'm sure Connor as well, someone who's seen Lord of the Rings and loves Lord of the Rings, to know that the guy who gave us like that masterpiece of a trilogy started out doing these really unique, different, just DIY type of low budget horror films that somehow are really entertaining. Like any other director would crumble making the film the way he did like this. But he pulled it off and it's entertaining and he only got better. I mean, with this and then like Dead Alive, it just kept getting better.
Yeah. I mean, this is, you give a guy with a goal $25,000 and he's going to make something. And this is what we have. And amazingly, this film has lasted. You can watch it on Tubi right now if you have that service. It was on Prime for the longest time. They took it off right when I fucking needed it.
I'm pretty sure there's a Blu-ray in existence. I can't remember.
If it is, it's not one that was supervised by Peter Jackson. He said it. I don't know if it was last year or something like that, or the year before, but he literally had bad taste sitting in a film can under his bed for the longest time. And he didn't think anybody would really want to worry about it, but he's got them. He's got all of them back and he's working on actually putting out his supervision on restoring these and putting them out. The negative for bad taste started to essentially rot. Like it had mold and a bunch of stuff growing on it. So like I'm sure that the finished product for that isn't going to be as good. But just the fact that it would be getting the touch from the guy who started it, who made it, and then has gone on to become one of the, the biggest names in filmmaking and has the actual resources behind him to do it on his own accord, no less, not paying anybody else. He's going to do it himself and hire the people to do it. I think that in and of itself is cause for celebration, because then these movies can be shared again instead of being recycled on, fourth and fifth generation VHS or some crazy bootleg DVD. I really love movies like this and the stories behind them. I don't know like what kind of stuff you were digging up for it, Connor, but he built his own fucking Steadicam.
Yeah.
Like that's like Sam Raimi level ingenuity. And I mean, he even showed it. Like I've seen a making of for it, and he's like he's got it strapped on him and he's showing how it works. And then you see like in the movie, some of the shots that he's using with it. And it's fucking genius. Like it adds so much to it when it could have just been like a simple, like static camera, just panning over here and tilting and doing all of that. Like he gave these movies an energy and a playfulness, because if a camera's moving like that and kind of taking you everywhere, like you feel like you're on a ride and you're not just watching a normal movie. You're not watching somebody who, while he was still learning how to visually tell a story, like he already had this crazy idea in his head how he wanted this movie to look. And the fact that he would sacrifice his weekends to get this thing made is just, it's very inspiring. Like I think kids who are, learning how to make movies or just getting into movies, like they should see things like this. They should understand that if you are singular and focused enough in your drive to make something happen, this is what can come of it. You might not reach the levels of Peter Jackson. I mean, that kind of stuff is like once in a lifetime, one in a million, whatever, but it can be done with minimal resources and just sheer force of will. You can make something like this. And it's, I mean, just the balls, like he even joked about it. He ran out of friends to use in the movie. So that's why he plays Derek and the alien Robert. That's why, because he didn't have anybody else. Like, well, fuck it, I guess I'm doing it. And just the balls to like, A, go, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then 2, actually figure out how to do it, how to make it happen. It's impressive nonetheless.
Well, and to me, the fact that he hasn't really abandoned his roots. If you watch Lord of the Rings, that whole trilogy, there's a lot of camera shots and stuff like that harken back to his time on Bad Taste, Dead Alive, and everything he did before. Like he doesn't forget where he came from. So when he did make the transition to the bigger, studio back stuff, he still remembered his roots, still put a lot of his stuff in those movies, which I do appreciate that. He's not still giving us what we know him for.
Well, he's a filmmaker, as we see with these movies. He's a filmmaker who's built on practicality, who had to kind of just figure his way through this. So when you put him on a big budget thing like Lord of the Rings and you give him unlimited resources, he's still going to do things the way he knows how to do them. And that's, I think, why Lord of the Rings has a timeless quality to it, is because it still feels so real, because most of it was. Mm-hmm. And I think, he did abandon that when The Hobbit came out.
The studio fucked him on that one.
Fair enough.
Studio Warner Brothers seems to have this thing where they love to trample on directors that are really successful for them, and they did that with him.
Okay.
On The Hobbit, I think he did not want the CGI orcs. They did, and it was a big mess.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, my point is, he does have that flair for the practical with Lord of the Rings, and King Kong. Mm. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about Peter Jackson. So he would go on to win 3 Oscars in his career, 1 for directing, 1 for writing, and 1 for producing, all for 2003's The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. He was also nominated for Best Screenplay for 1994's Heavenly Creatures and 2001's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. He was nominated for Best Director for Fellowship and Best Picture for Fellowship, The Two Towers, and District 9. In addition, he's directed such films as Dead Alive, The Frighteners, The Lovely Bones, The Hobbit Trilogy, and King Kong. He's become one of the most respected and powerful directors in Hollywood, which is great because I think his track record is pretty good. I mean, I didn't see Mortal Engines, but everything else pretty much is pretty gold.
I fell asleep during Mortal Engines. I haven't finished it yet.
I didn't know he produced District 9. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I just picked up Heavenly Creatures recently. I was meaning to check that out. Have you guys seen that one?
I have not seen Heavenly Creatures.
No, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever watched it. Before I saw Lord of the Rings, and even before The Bad Taste and Dead Alive and Meet the Feebles and whatnot, the first Peter Jackson movie I saw was The Frighteners, and that right there is another example of him being very ingenious with how he made his movies, and I still think that's probably one of my favorite Michael J. Fox movies for sure.
Considering I'm such a massive Back to the Future fan, I really got to get on The Frighteners. I've never seen that. I really want to. I had planned I was going to watch a bunch of Peter Jackson films for this film, but it coincided with my vacation and it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll appreciate it when you watch it. It's Michael J. Fox is playing against type. Everybody knows him as being this wholesome boy next door. And in The Frighteners, he's kind of playing a guy who lost his wife and he's kind of bitter about it. And he's kind of being a little bit of a trickster and con man. And, it's a very ingenious use of him as an actor, because he has that way of making you really care about him, whatever character he's playing. And he does that with, I think his name's Frank in The Frighteners, and it's really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah, definitely on my list. King Kong, I feel doesn't get a lot of praise these days. I think it's been overshadowed by the MonsterVerse movies, but 2005's King Kong is a terrifying movie. I mean, it's one of the greatest adaptations of the Kong story. That scene with the fucking pit bugs always gets under my skin. I remember I saw it at the movies with my mom and dad, and that fucking the swamp slug that swallows Andy Serkis's head. I almost left. I almost went to the lobby and was just I can't watch this movie anymore.
I had a huge smile on my face.
Disturbing.
Yeah, King Kong kind of gets a bad rep. And, I remember I liked it when I first saw it. Then I couldn't really watch it too much. That 3-hour runtime was daunting. But as I went over, I realized probably, especially the MonsterVerse, kind of focusing more on the monster action, which is fine. I'm a big fan of the MonsterVerse. I've kind of come around back to liking it because it's probably one of the more faithful adaptations of King Kong and like what the point of the original movie even was about. I feel like that one gets the closest.
Yeah, it's purebred horror. 05's King Kong. Yeah. What do you think, Josh?
I mean, I kind of had like mixed feelings going into watching it because I am a very big fan of all of the classic, horror movies and classic monster movies and things like that. So it's like, if you're gonna tackle something like that, you better come with it. And I will say there are parts of that movie that really work for me, especially when they're on Skull Island and Peter Jackson gets to play with monsters and do all that kind of thing, because he grew up watching all of the Ray Harryhausen animated movies and like watching like Sinbad and all these other crazy wild ass movies that really just enjoyed what they were doing, which is showing you men fighting monsters and things like that. So those are some of the parts that I really enjoyed with it. At times I felt like it dragged. I mean, if you're going to make a movie that's 3 hours long, like you really gotta keep the attention going. And there are just parts of it that really dragged for me. So I wasn't too hip on the runtime. That said, it's definitely one of the most faithful adaptations of it, because anything else that was made like back in the 70s, the one that was made in the 70s, it's all right. I do think Jessica Lange is really good in it and Jeff Bridges is really good in it. But it has its cheesy moments, obviously, because of just like the technology and how you were going to be able to do that. It's always going to be kind of hokey and, giant hand coming through the screen and shit like that. And Peter Jackson, being the ingenious guy that he is, he really got it. And he really just let Andy Serkis do his thing, playing Kong and kind of just making him a lot more real than, like making him look like an actual gorilla versus this fucking whatever, this anthropomorphized fucking, 2-footed walking on 2 feet gorilla shit that we saw in some other ones. But, it definitely gets you emotionally sometimes. I will say, as much as I want to laugh every time I see Jack Black in the movie, like he has his moments where he really gets you, like being like the person that really loves this whole idea of spectacle and like telling a story and like having all of this kind of stuff going on. So there's just parts of it that really work. Overall, like if it was about 2 hours, I would probably be okay with it a lot more than what I am now.
Yeah, I think if you cut like 30 minutes in that like first hour, 30 minutes in that last hour, but then just maintain that middle section, perfect.
You ever seen that like 4-hour director's cut they did?
No, because I didn't. I was too daunting to sit through the 3 hour. I didn't want to sit through the 4 hour.
Yeah, they somehow thought making the movie longer was a good idea. I honestly have not seen it since the movies in 05. Because it is way too freaking long, and there are other Kong movies I can watch to get the same fix. And I just know that fucking slug is gonna get me again. I just know it. When stuff that freaked me out as a child has not left my head. I fucking hate it. Ugh. So apart from Peter Jackson, none of the actors in Bad Taste were really actors. They were his buddies. And they didn't do anything else. So we're not really going to go into the cast too much unless there was like anybody you wanted to spotlight.
No, not really. I mean, there's just part of like the fun of this in that, these guys were all Peter Jackson's friends, is kind of, it gives you an understanding of how the movie was made and why it feels like certain people dropped out and then something else just happened. Because originally there was a 10-minute like short version of this that was just about Craig and he got picked up by an alien and he got eaten. And like that was the short version of it. And when Peter Jackson decided that he really wanted to do this and actually make a feature movie out of it, his buddy Craig got married, and his wife was like, I don't want you making this shitty ass movie. Don't do it. He fucking, yeah. He made the mistake. So Peter was like, shit, what do I got to do? Oh, I know what I can do. That's where his other friends come in, and they're all the whole fucking AIDS team. Like, again, you have to chuckle when somebody does something like that, because it's just like, like, is he how aware is he that he's doing that? And if he is, he's got some cojones to just throw that. I mean, that's like watching Troma's War and realizing that the diabolical task force that has been created for world domination is called the fucking AIDS Brigade or some shit like that. And you're just like, holy fuck, like, all right, I guess we're going with it. But that whole story was made because his buddy Craig was unavailable and just dropped out. But then over time, this movie took 4 years to make. 3 years after that initial short, guess who gets a divorce and wants to come back and play with his buddies? So that's why he shows back up in the movie later towards the end, because now he's like, oh no, I can play now, guys. And you're just, now everybody's on board and having fun again. So there is a logical reason, you know, that was a product of the production, why it happened the way it happened, which I think the fact that he dealt with it the way he did is, again, pretty damn funny, but also very ingenious.
Well, I love that he can just say, you know, his buddy's like, hey, I'm married now and she doesn't want me doing this. And he's like, oh, all right. And just cuts him out. And then 4 years later, it's like, hey, buddy's like, got divorced. I want back in. And he's like, all right, no problem. Just to have that kind of just whatever, snip, you're back in. It's hilarious. And I know there was another friend of his who had to maintain the same facial hair for continuity for 4 fucking years. Like PJ wouldn't let him shave. And after they finished filming, like he couldn't just go back to shaving normally. Like he developed a routine in his life for 4 years and he just kept that going. Like that's dedication. I don't know if my buddies and I were filming a movie on the weekends, like, I don't know. I feel like eventually I'd give up. Like, I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, when are you going to finish this thing? But they all stayed. That's fantastic.
And again, that speaks to, you know, keeping your cast and crew as small as possible, because the more hats you give to people, the more involved you make them, I feel like the less likely they are to drop out. I'm the kind of guy that I would be Peter Jackson. I would be the one that would sacrifice my weekends. I mean, I kept trying to do that so many times. I had so many friends just like, come on, just give me a weekend. Just let me do this. Like, talk to my buddies that are in bands. Just let me shoot your band for a little bit. I have an idea. And yeah, trust me, I'm still working on that. I'm still working. I'm still trying to write stuff. So it'll happen one day. God damn it.
Ever since we mentioned Troma's War, I'm just thinking about that scene where they try to give the ghost AIDS. Yeah, have you seen that, Connor?
No, I've seen Toxic Avenger, and that is all.
Troma's War was a good one. I did like that one. Thank you, Joe Bob.
It's fucking bananas. It's fucking bananas. That's one I think you should watch after you've watched a couple of other ones, because it's not like it's Troma's most expensive movie at the time. At the same time, it's probably one of its most offensive, just because of like where they go with it. And you're not even thinking it's going to happen. Oddly enough, it kind of had this whole, like, Lloyd Kaufman was making jokes about it, how like J.J. Abrams ripped him off and Lost with like his whole opening scene, because the whole opening of the movie is like these citizens of Tromaville are in a plane crash and they land on a fucking deserted island, so they think, and then there's some weird wacky shit that's going on there. So broad strokes, what you will. Lloyd was like, yeah, J.J. Abrams stole that shit from me, and all you got to do is just ask me how to let him use the idea. I don't fucking care. You know. So it's just funny. It's just funny little shit like that. But that movie is outrageous. Like, Lloyd Kaufman likes to brag that it has the most squibs in a movie. And I would not put it past him to actually have that done. So I've never gone to try and count because there's just a lot of people that get shot in that movie. There's explosions everywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, ever since you kind of introduced me to the world of Troma, this entire like secret underground world of weird ass movies I've never heard of. I have been intrigued. Bad Taste kind of reminded me of that Troma flavor. And
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I admire anybody who can, kind of fund their own project and really, keep it going this long and actually end up with something that lasts this long. So yeah, major props. Yeah, for sure. I'll be checking out some of those. Bad Taste has an IMDb score of 6.6, Rotten Tomatoes score of 71%. I was not expecting that. Despite a poor reception in New Zealand upon release, the film has since been reclaimed as a cult classic. And as I said, you can stream it on Tubi. But that is it. That's the only place you can stream it right now. Or, well, you can pay $2 to rent it on Prime, but come on, be honest. We all hate having to shell out that extra $2, don't we?
Sometimes. Depends on what it is.
Yeah, true. All right. Let's talk some highlights of Bad Taste. I didn't take a lot of notes this time because most of the time I was like, what in the fuck is this? But I did point out a few things that caught my eye. I love that image of Peter Jackson scooping a guy's brains out of his skull with a fucking spoon and just eating this guy's head. I thought that was funny. Reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And yeah, spoon. He had a spoon in the dude's head.
Well, later on you find out, or at least it makes sense why he would carry a spoon in his pocket the whole time when they're passing the bowl around.
God.
Fun fact, a lot of the guts that were in there were purchased as scraps from the butcher. Yeah. So it's actual guts.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's
the brain that he's using is probably some real guts or a real brain. Like, and again, just it really shows that he's not afraid to get gross and go for maximum effect. Because that whole bit with Derek fighting Robert, and if you take nothing away from this movie, just remember, Derek's don't run. He when he fucking falls, and yeah, it's clearly a fucking dummy of some sort that's getting rolled down the fucking hill, and then the splat and all this stuff. You're like, how the fuck? Of course he fucking survives with a big fucking flap coming out of the back of his fucking head. But he uses that, and it's like, that's where I think this movie really like settles into, if you're gonna put it in any kind of banner, under any kind of banner, it's gonna be a splat stick kind of movie. Like it's never serious, it's always done for fun, and it is just gory and gross. And I always love, because there's just so many different gags that's going on in this movie. And I mean, any chance you can to like throw a fart joke in there somewhere, like, I'm all for it.
So I'll say, actually, with that scene, that's one of the things I highlighted that stuck with me. The first time I watched the movie, I was waiting for it to happen again. Mainly Connor's reaction is the scene out after he falls and you see the splatter of the brains. He gets up and he has to put his brain back in his head. Anytime the flap comes down, he like starts convulsing. So he has to hurt him, like, put the fucking skull back in place. It cracks.
And then he gets his belt. He gets his belt.
He uses his belt to keep
cinches it back in there.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know why. I always really, that stuck out to me. I really like it. It's funny. It's funny as hell to me.
It made me laugh when he randomly fucking headbutted a bird out of the sky in that scene. Just like, ah! And the bird explodes.
Of course. Why wouldn't it? I mean, again, this movie does not take itself seriously. Of course, some shit like, for fuck's sake, they fucking blew up a sheep with a goddamn rocket launcher. Like, come on.
What the fuck was that? That was so gratuitous. I loved it.
New Zealand's sacred animal, and you just fucking blow it up with a goddamn rocket launcher.
That was great, especially because I've been showing Connor the Hatchet sequel. So it's like we had that scene in Hatchet 3 where the dude tries to use a rocket launcher on Victor Crowley. He just puts the fucking dude in front of it that takes it and blows up the house. So I was like, sweet, look at that. 2 movies with fucking rocket launchers gone terribly wrong.
Has been the theme of the week, hasn't it?
And it's great because like I think even if you really wanted to like try and like read a whole lot into it, like he's definitely showing how inept the government can be when they're trying to handle something that clearly is way over their head. You know, as much as these guys are really trying, you know, like you've got to give them an E for effort. I'll put it like that. And just the rapport they have with each other is great. Like it always feels like these guys have like no idea what they're getting into, but they also have supreme confidence that they can get it done no matter what. And the one who turns out to be the most badass of all is the one that they're just like, oh, fuck. Oh, God damn Derek. Like, he's the one that everybody's like worried is going to fucking get killed. And he's the one that ends up making it out at the end. Literally.
When he stood up after the splat and like his fucking head was coming open, I immediately thought like, oh, he's a robot. Okay. And then Caleb's like, no, he's not a robot. And I'm like, what? So his head's just open? His fucking brain's just over there?
No. He grabbed it and then it went back into his head, Connor. So it was back in his head. Was it put in back in professionally? God, no. But it's in there.
Pretty sure you can't just put somebody's brain like back in pieces like that.
Ask a doctor. Let's find out.
I did love at the beginning the government agent who's like, let me get this, get the A team. And he has a button on his phone for the boys. Like, perfect.
Fucking Carl Urban's character just pops out of nowhere.
Yeah. I immediately started thinking like, oh shit, here comes Carl Urban. And it is New Zealand.
I forgot he's from New Zealand. God damn it.
My God.
Season 3, you can't come soon enough.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, that show is a lot of fun.
Oh, so much fun. So the puke. Was not expecting that. That was fucking vile. Just Robert just starts puking fucking entire bowl full of green shit. And then they pass it around like it's fucking Jonestown. And the one dude in the puffy blue shirt, because he put it on over his fucking body armor, just has to kind of blend in. And then he goes for seconds. He's like, oh, not bad.
Really like that. Like that's where I think like this movie really like it really shines for me. Like everybody is just like leaning into it and just going for it. And the fact that, the people who are trying to stop this are bunch of idiots, and the aliens themselves, bunch of fucking idiots. Like they're just the dumbest things, but yet somehow they've managed to make their way across the universe to here to keep their fucking fast food chain going with the latest and greatest fucking snack food, us. Like again, a totally ridiculous idea. You would have thought it would have been the brainchild of like sitting around passing a joint around or something, and somebody's just like, oh dude, wouldn't it be weird if like aliens wanted to come and instead of like being peaceful, they just like wanted to make cheeseburgers out of us? Like that's how I feel like this movie was born. But then it's just like somebody just wanting to have fun and not taking themselves too seriously. Because I think if you're going to make a movie, especially your first movie, I don't know that you should take yourself that seriously, because you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You might as well just have fun with it and just go for it. And the fact that Peter Jackson went for it and didn't let up, like that was the thing. Like this movie just kept getting weirder and crazier till by the end of it, fucking he's doing a fucking swan dive through the head alien with a chainsaw and gets birthed out of his butthole, and then wears his skin like a suit, flying the house back that's somehow a spaceship, just to go back and find these fuckers and go after them. Like that's just emblematic of how like this movie fucking, when it hits the gas, it does not let up until it runs through the wall, and it just keeps going. So fucking good.
Just I want a sequel where Derek like fucks up this entire civilization. Where he, I'm coming for you, dickheads. Like I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
You guys watched Futurama, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember
I haven't like kept up with it over the years, but I mean, I've definitely watched enough of it.
Do you remember that episode where they found a planet full of these little crunchy things and they took a bunch back with them and it became like the most popular snack food on Earth and it ended up being like the Omicron people's eggs?
Yeah.
I can't help but thinking that was influenced a bit by this movie.
Probably.
Possibly.
I mean,
Possibly.
I mean, it's hard to believe that Matt Groening wouldn't have seen this movie.
Yeah.
No.
I bet if I go back and watch that right now, one of the aliens in this movie has got to be walking around in the background somewhere.
I did want to point out like that comment about Jackson not letting up till the end of the movie. That's also really like, especially for like his pre-Lord of the Rings career, kind of like to me what he did with almost every film he did. It started in one ridiculous place, admittedly, and it just keeps going and doesn't let up, doesn't stop, just keeps outdoing itself until the very end of the movie. And by then you're like, what am I watching? I don't know what. You know what? I like it. I'm gonna watch it again. I like it.
Yeah, I would think out of all three of these movies, Connor, my safe bet would be that you would probably like Dead Alive the most, because there's a lot more of a story to it.
Yeah.
Where Bad Taste was just the product of trying to put together something that there was never a script for this movie at all, ever. So the fact that we got something coherent out of it is amazing. Meet the Feebles that's one of the fucking rawest, most offensive ass movies I've ever seen. And it's all about puppets and like this dark underbelly of fucking theater and TV and celebrity and all this other stuff. It's Happy Time Murders has nothing on Meet the Feebles. I'll put it like that. Just saying. Even though Happy Time Murders does have silly string jizz, Meet the Feebles is fucking fucked up. Meet the Feebles is just fucked up.
I want to see it.
Yeah. Dead Alive, and I can't wait to actually like really talk about it, but like that movie again is really leaning into its concept. You think it's like kind of like wrapped up. It has this real timeless quality to it, even though like you're not really sure when it's supposed to have taken place. But it really just, it has such a good story behind it. It's like a very basic love story with like a guy who's been living with his mom and she's really overbearing and he's a total puss and just caters to her every whim. And he meets this girl, you know, that whole thing. And then it gets fucking bonkers from there. Like there's just so much that happens in that movie that it's hard to say one thing and then not like spoil the movie. So like I can't wait till you watch that, and I can't wait to talk about that, because that movie has one of my favorite movie or lines in a movie ever, and I'm not even gonna say it because I want you to watch it, and then I want you to figure out which one it is. But that movie has one of the gnarliest finales I've ever seen, and when you're done with it, you're just like, you're fucking wiped. You're like, holy shit, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, I've been on a ride, and it's just fun. It's just so much damn fun.
Well, I was surprised you didn't pick that one. I assumed, like, you know, if you were going to go Jackson, I assumed Dead Alive's the one you would have picked.
Well, I kind of wanted you to really like start from the bottom, because this movie, like, as rough around the edges as it is, as hard as it is to try and have like try to follow it from A to B, like it's one of those that like it lends itself to being watched with your friends. Like you gotta watch it with more than one person, unless you're a weirdo like me and you just watch it for fun. Because there are so many what the fuck moments that you're just like, wait a minute, did I just see him do that? You know, like, and when you see little tiny things. So like the fact that he had no money for actual guns, like all those are fake as fuck, spray painted, put together with fucking pipes and probably tinfoil and shit. all the gun blasts were put in after the fact, because you could see when these guys are shooting, it's like everything about this is using any and every kind of trick in the book for making movies. And it's, you just have to enjoy it. Like you can't sit there and point out like, oh, this is so dumb. Like if anybody I watched that movie with would start to like just pan it that way, I would probably punch him in the face or something. Just like, just have some fucking fun for once. Just have some fun. Just have some fun. Like the minute you watch a movie and a guy falls down and he explodes and then he gets up and he headbutts a fucking bird, like you're not watching a normal movie. You might as well just go with it. You see some fucking weird dude eating another guy's brains out of his head with a spoon, you just got to go with it. You find out there are a bunch of aliens that are really part of a fast food chain that are finding the next great white meat. You just got to go with it. Why not? A sheep explodes. Yeah, why not? Whatever. It's just one thing after another. And it's just fun. Like this is probably one of my favorite party movies.
It's funny. Sure. I remember when you showed me this on the boat with the division and the amount of times people would come down going, what the fuck are you two watching? And I'm sitting there with you like happy because I'm like, I'm really enjoying this movie. Like, I think I was the only one that birthing that was with you every time. Like, no, this is a fun movie. I like this movie.
Oh yeah. Well, like if Kyle would come and he'd just like peek his head and he's just like, oh, it's pretty good. But then like, if he was watching Pink Flamingos or something and he saw something he really didn't like, he's just like, God, I hate you. Why do you watch these things? And it's just, yeah, like you just kind of, sometimes I do like the reactions of other people that haven't seen this kind of stuff, especially if this is like so far out of their wheelhouse of movies that they would normally watch. I love that visceral shock of like, oh my God, like you think this is entertainment? Like, yes, I do. Yeah. Yes, I do.
I think one of my favorites, I won't ruin it, what happened in the movie for Connor here, because I know you're probably gonna make him watch it. But when one of the guys in our birthing left during Poultrygeist because he couldn't take it anymore. I'm sitting there enjoying the shit out of this movie. That's, I would say, one of my top 5 favorite of drama is Poultrygeist. But yeah, he could not take it. He left.
I love those. I love those moments.
My God. I without this podcast, I wouldn't even know any of this shit exists. It's wild. My only real gripe with Bad Taste, I mean, I've got a few gripes, but the only one I'm going to bring up is between the weird shit, it's kind of boring. Like, there's a lot of just getting to places. Like, and I feel like the weird shit overpowers that, but also at times I felt myself nodding off a couple times. And I don't know if that's just because of the intense heat or if the movie was just kind of not really for me. But, it happens.
I mean, I think there are those moments where you're just like, you kind of get those lulls, and it's just, I think some of that might be the way that it's put together, because there wasn't a script. I mean, I think if this movie would have had a script, I think it would be a lot more coherent. I think it would be a lot more enjoyable. I've seen plenty of movies that had a script and are way worse, not even enjoyable. And you're like,
yeah,
who the fuck looks at that thing when they're done writing it and goes, beautiful, let's shoot that. Because any filmmaker that you hear talk about movies, especially if they write their own movies, the one thing they say that they will never like not take their time with is the script. Like, that is your blueprint for how you make your movie.
Yeah.
And if your script sucks, chances are your movie's going to suck unless you have somebody that is going to direct it that can pull out everything that works and then finds a way to put it together. I think if this movie would have had a script, it would have been a lot better. I think if Craig would have been a friend of theirs and they were going in after him or whatever, if there'd have been some kind of story there instead of just like, oh shit, Craig's wife said he can't play with us anymore, so we got to fucking find something else to do, boys. I think this movie would have been a lot more enjoyable from that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the heat definitely played a part in it. I'm gonna blame it on the heat wave.
The past like 16 movies I've watched have been like half, me paying attention and half the heat trying to kill me. So I'm doing my best.
We're making it. I agree with what you said. I think, there's like those lulls here and there, but we've both seen week, I think 8 of this past season of Last Drive-In, the VHS night, and those movies had scripts.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And
yeah, they had scripts, and dear Lord, am I going to buy them? Yeah, probably. But
fuck yeah.
The point being, like those were very much they were bad movies. So the fact that for no script, they could do something that was as coherent, had a lot of fun moments, a lot of out there moments that they did is really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I think this film is very much a labor of love. It's weird because I think PJ was just making shit up on the fly. And I think, for the fact that he didn't have a script, this ends up being I'd say mostly coherent film is pretty admirable.
Like I said, to me, the fact that there was no script and he achieved what he did with this movie, to me, just shows how talented he is. Because he, again, with scripts and all that stuff, right, he seems to have only gotten better. I'm very excited what he's going to be doing next. Like I said, I hope he recovers from Warner Bros. Kind of being addicted to him on the Hobbit trilogy. So,
well, I saw on IMDb he's set to do a sequel to The Adventures of Tintin, so that's his next project.
Okay, that's Spielberg. He might have better luck with that.
I would love nothing more than Peter Jackson to go back into the horror sandbox and go crazy again. And when he brought up the fact that he was going to, restore his naughty movies, he even said that he was like, I would like to make a horror film again. And I think he could do some good with it, especially if he's just allowed to do whatever he wants to do. I think he's one of those filmmakers that you can trust to just go and make something, and that you're going to get something that's going to be entertaining. And you can actually see the progression, and it's a really steep progression upward from Bad Taste to Meet the Feebles to Dead Alive. Like there's such a steep increase in his talent and what he does. And if the fact that there are uses of miniatures in the beginning of Dead Alive, and you don't even really know it unless you're actually paying attention, that to me, and that's 10 years difference, because when you talk about when Bad Taste was started, it was in 83. It was about 10 years, more or less. Like, that's fucking impressive. It's really fucking impressive. And I think for me, that's definitely the next Peter Jackson movie I would love to talk about is Dead Alive, because if you put Dead Alive and Bad Taste side by side, you're like, there's no way the same guy made these movies. There's no way. But when you pick them apart and you look at what are the hallmarks and the really telling flashes of his style, you're like, absolutely, it's Peter Jackson movie. Absolutely. Not to mention being a kid of the video store, how can you not watch a movie that has an alien in a fucking suit flipping you off? Like, how can you not want to go, yeah, I got to see that movie? It dares you. It fucking dares you to go watch it.
True.
Challenge accepted.
I really miss the days when they tried on movie posters.
Yeah, I wish I'd grown up, now in the age of video store. I mean, as a kid, I had it, but I didn't appreciate it. And I do miss those days. That's why I still buy movies. I know a lot of people stop doing that. I'll never stop doing that.
Oh no, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Like you guys know how things are going for me, and that's, I think, one of the other positive things that have come out of it is the fact that I am totally unchecked now. Totally unchecked. I got nobody going, oh, buying another movie? Like, yes, I am. I think I showed both of you. If not Caleb, I know I showed you, Connor. that fucking 600 fucking movie shelf that I want to get.
Oh yeah,
It's happening.
yeah. When I move closer to you, I get my new place. I'm getting a bigger movie shelf. Especially now I saw it today. I don't know if you saw it. They're re-releasing the Phantasm Blu-ray box set.
So
Going with the Sphere.
So funny you should mention that, because during their last, I think it was their Easter sale, I was coming to the end of all of my fun money that I could spend, and I bought that set because I was like, they're never going to release that fucking set with the ball again. I missed it. I'm pissed about it.
Mm-hmm.
I am contemplating trying to sell it so I can get the money up so I can buy that one, because that's the one I really wanted. And not to mention, it has an uncut version of Phantasm 2. Like, that alone is worth the price of admission for that. Yes, Connor, I see you rolling your eyes. Phantasm. Oh,
no, I'm more just admiring how excited you guys are more than anything.
I like Phantasm.
Okay.
I'm glad for you guys. I'm happy for you guys.
So this is for me, like, this is like why I love collecting movies and having them. It's like you really have to like it's really hard because like you have to like jump on things when you see them because you're not sure if they're going to last. And then another one is like, which one do you buy? Because the fact that I'm region free, and I bugged Caleb for years about it, like, go region free, because it just opens everything up. And I even kept bragging to, like yelling at Austin to do it. Like, you like watching movies from overseas, like, this is the best way to do it. And you can buy them wherever, and nobody can tell you that you can't watch them at home, because guess what? You can. It's the best money I've ever spent trying to, go in region free and doing that kind of thing. And it really kind of changes the game. Because I mean, I could buy something from Arrow or 88 Films in England, or I can go buy something from Australia. Like when they did Bride of Reanimator on the last drive-in, I was trying to find it. It's out of print. You couldn't get it. I was like, fuck. And then I looked and I was like, oh shit. This company in Australia called Umbrella, who I bought Razorback from, which is another one of those like VHS forgotten ass movies. And it's, oh man, I had to get it. So I got it from them. That was one of them. That was kind of like a bucket list item that I've always wanted to have. And I found out that they did a double feature of Bride of Reanimator and Beyond Reanimator. And I was like, well, yeah, of course I got to fucking get that. So yeah, that happened. And I don't have to worry about, oh, I can't watch this stuff. Like, yeah. The only thing I haven't done yet is go for 4K. And that's why because I've got to get a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'll say, so I have a couple 4Ks now because of my PlayStation 5. And Connor was like, hey, let's open up your Mummy one. So I had replaced my Blu-ray set that was kind of busted up with a 4K Mummy set that was out. And I'll admit, for the longest time, I was like, I don't see the difference in 4K. We watched that, though, and I was like, holy fucking shit. It is so crystal clear. The frame rate is even smoother than it's ever, which I don't know how they achieved that. I was impressed. I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm getting 4K whenever it's possible. So yeah, it's impressive. We went to I took him to Pike's Marketplace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I got Saw, the original Saw and Jaws on 4K for like $15.
Yeah.
So
that was awesome. I'm pretty sure that those were stolen because the guy gave him such a sweet deal. They were wrapped up. I'm like, this isn't kosher, but fuck it. It's not his problem.
I paid legally. Let that be known. I paid legally.
Yeah, so 4K is worth it. It looks amazing. I was really surprised. And the PS5 fucking upscales it, which is amazing. They upscale Blu-ray, so the Blu-rays looked in 4K quality. So yeah, I'm on board with 4K.
If you can't get your hands on one when I move, just go over to my place. We'll watch some 4K stuff, buddy.
Well, we might even be roommates.
Exactly. So I'll have that PlayStation 5. Don't worry. I know it's a bitch to get. I got mine luckily through the Next. If you want to check your one close to you, I don't know if they're still doing a thing. But that's
well,
how I got
I got a picture from somebody at one point saying that they had like a dozen, and I'm just like, oh, that's great. You can show me a picture of them, but don't have the money for it, you fuckers. Like, just stop. And anytime I'm on Twitter and like PlayStation will be like, ooh, have you got your PS5 yet? I'm always commenting back, no, stop rubbing it in my face. You know, maybe they'll just take pity on me one day, but I doubt it.
That reminds me of the warehouse from Jingle All the Way, where all the counterfeit Santas are selling Turbo Mans.
Turbo Man.
Yeah, it's the same situation.
Or buying a Chucky doll from a hobo.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you never do that. You never do that.
Well, here are some Filmgazm facts for bad taste. We've covered a bit of this already. Here's a little bit more detail. Number one, Peter Jackson shot the film on weekends over a 4-year period with his friends playing the lead roles. Jackson funded most of the film himself until towards the end of the shoot, when the New Zealand Film Commission gave him money to finish the project, after being impressed with what he'd already produced. There was never a script for the movie. Each scene was filmed from ideas the director had come up with during the week. And afterwards, the film was screened for the New Zealand Film Commission, and they were like, oh, boy. They had a discussion about this. One guy was like, this is not cinema. This does not represent what New Zealand is capable of. Should we allow this? And then, movie buffs were like, this is fucking awesome. So, yeah, it's, there's a place for everything.
It went to Cannes. Come on.
I love when films like this go to Cannes, because supposedly, like, I always hear, like, the people who watch this is like the most uptight, snooty film fans you can find, and they never know how to handle a film like this. They're like,
It's like forcing a food critic to eat a Lunchables. It's awesome.
Choke it down.
Number two, Craig Smith, who plays Giles, was part of the original cast, was married and then divorced within the 4-year time frame it took to make the film. His wife was a devout Christian. She said no. He said fine. And then he got divorced and was like, I want back in. But you'd think during the dating process, he would have found out that she was a devout Christian and would have, impugned his film opportunities. So I'm wondering, like, did that just not come up?
Probably not.
He's probably waited.
It's the old rope-a-dope, It's a whole trick. Just pull the rug out from under him. She probably promised him all kinds of naughty things that she would never do because she's a good Christian woman.
Yep, straight up. And number three, the vomit in the bowl was yogurt, as well as muesli, oats and nuts, basically, with green food coloring. So it probably tasted pretty good.
That's probably why the guy went back for more.
Yeah.
It's probably like, oh, this is good. I just want this for lunch.
He's drinking OD yogurt.
If I was actually be like, hey man, can I take this home? I don't have food at home. Can I just?
I hope they did it. I hope they did it in one take, because if that took all day, that shit was going to be just putrid by the end of the shoot. Then it really was taking sipping up a bowl of puke. I'd rather drink puke than rotten yogurt. I don't know. Ugh.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Both sound terrible, but thank you for that image now.
All right. I give bad taste. I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah. I read your review. I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm going to try.
It was a 5. The more we talked about it, it gets a little bit more bonus points. I'll give it a 6. I didn't really care for it, but I do appreciate what it represents and like what came out of this. So yeah, I would watch it again. I would.
I'll give it an 8. I really do enjoy what Jackson pulls off with this movie. Like, for a low budget and what he had, he pulls off such an amazing amount. And I mean, it really kind of shows you the kind of like just smart genius director that we had. Yeah. And his work since then really speaks for itself. Between this and since then, it just 8 for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a solid 10 bowls of puke out of 10 for me.
Beautiful.
Very satisfying to the last drop.
Oh god.
10 out of 10. Check it out.
Oh, Jesus. I'm gonna have some fucked up nightmares tonight.
4 stars. Joe Bob says, check it out.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's show. This was fun. Next week, Austin returns to Filmgazm for a film we've both been waiting for quite a long time. Finally available to stream on Hulu through Epix. A pious, uber-religious nurse becomes obsessed with saving the soul of her patient in the 2019 limited release religious horror flick Saint Maud. Thanks to the pandemic, it never got a proper release and was quietly dropped on Hulu a few months ago. This was high up on our list, so we're very excited to finally get to watch it. We've been planning this out, finding a spot that would work for both of us. We're going to do Saint Maud. I can't wait. I've been wanting to see this movie for 2 years. Don't miss Awakenings on Oscar Sunday and 6 potentially great films on Monday's sneak preview. We have not yet chosen what the big one's going to be. Anything goes. Could be Werewolves Within, could be The Tomorrow War, could be Fear Street. Who knows?
Oh, it could be America the Motion Picture. Who knows?
Until then, please don't drink from a bowl of alien puke, no matter what situation you're in, and keep watching movies.